Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Maria and on my channel I create videos around everything nursing. I also have a handful of lifestyle content. I am trying to get to 10,000 subscribers, so I'd really appreciate it if you guys subscribe to my channel and also if you gave this video a like. Not only does it help the growth of my channel, it also tells YouTube that you guys would like to see more videos like this. As always, this video is in partnership with www.nursingpersonalstatement.co.uk. So make sure you check that website out if you haven't done so already. It is such a fantastic resource. In this video, I'm going to be sharing, I think it's like maybe 3 or 4 of the hardest things about nursing school. And I'm also going to give you guys some tips on how to overcome them, so that if you are a nursing student or when you do, start your nursing school journey, you're better prepared to tackle these obstacles that I found to be really tricky when I was a nursing student. If you guys are subscribed to my channel and watch my videos, you guys already know what this first thing is. One thing that I really struggled with during nursing school and that I found really hard to manage was my workload. Having to balance placement, also known as clinicals, in addition to having essays, assessments, presentations due, in addition to meetings, and that doesn't even include all the other social stuff you have on the side. And if I'm being really honest with myself, I'm not the most social person, so the fact that I really struggled with this says a lot. The workload at university, especially when I was at placement, at times was very overwhelming and sometimes can lead you to do crazy and stupid stuff that you really should not be doing. Looking back, and obviously wanted to give you guys tips and advice on how to manage your workload. One thing that I would recommend that I started doing in the third, or that I really started to actively do during the 3rd and 4th year of my nursing degree, was making sure I had an errand day, or an errand morning, or an errand afternoon. And what I basically mean by this is maybe allocating a day depending on how many errands you have to run, or maybe even just allocating like maybe 4 or 5 hours out of the day to basically run a bunch of errands. So if that's, sending any emails, replying to any emails, making any calls, any like little tedious things that you need to do, try and consolidate that and do all of that in one day, or try and do all of that in, maybe 3 or 4 hours, depending on how many different errands that you have to do. That way you have the rest of the day, or you have the rest of the week to focus on bigger tasks. Because one thing that I found that really took up a lot of my time during nursing school was the little things. Creating a routine was another thing that I really struggled with when I was a nursing student. And it really wasn't anything to do with, well, I'm sure like my personality and who I am as a person played a role, but again, it really came down to the fact that you're doing placements, you've got essays, you've got dissertations due in, you've got this volunteering, you've got this part-time job. It was setting a routine during placement was very hard. As I've mentioned in some of my videos, during my nursing degree we had blocks of placement and we had blocks of theory, and best believe when it was a block of placement, so when I had placement for like 10-12 weeks or however long it was, routine was out the window. I didn't have a routine because I wasn't setting a routine. And this was made even harder when I had placements, when my mentor insisted on setting my hours. Like, I could never be like, every Monday evening I'm going to go to the gym, and every Tuesday morning I'm going to do a food shop, and every Friday afternoon I'm going to deep clean this whole apartment. Like, that wasn't a thing. As a student nurse, when you're on placement, you're working day shift, night shift, early shift, long day, Monday night. How do you get into a routine? How do you say, this is what I'm going to do, when you're working so many random shifts? Sometimes you may look at your shift, your placement hours on paper and be like, yeah, that's manageable. But if you're doing like 2-3 long days, best believe the 4th day, when you've got that day off, it's not really a day off, that's like a day of recovery. So sometimes your timetable looks good on paper, but when it actually comes to living it out and you're trying to establish some sort of routine, it can be very difficult. One thing that I want to share with you guys that may help you establish some sort of routine is that rather than trying to create like a weekly routine or a daily routine where you're like, at 7 a.m. I'm going to do this, and then 8 a.m. I'm going to do this, so on. Rather than doing that, I consider those to be macro macro routines, try and create micro routines. So what I mean by a micro routine is a routine that you can do at any point during the day. For example, some people might think of doing their laundry. Some people may do their laundry, they may put it in the washing machine, and then they think that task is done. Really, that task isn't done. That mini routine isn't done. You need to take your clothes out of the washing machine. You need to put it in the dryer or let it air dry. You need to iron it if you're ironing clothes. You also need to fold your clothes. The beauty of that routine is that you can do it at any time of the day, or you can do it at any day of the week. If you're the sort of person that says, I'm going to do my laundry every Wednesday as a nursing student, that isn't going to happen. But if you have a micro routine that says, if I'm going to do my laundry, these are all the things that I need to do in addition to it, then you are able to get yourself into some sort of routine. The same thing also applies to like revision and learning and studying in general. If you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do 3 hours of revision every Monday morning and every Thursday evening and every Wednesday afternoon, that isn't going to happen. Whereas if you create a micro routine and tell yourself, actually, when I read this book, I'm not just going to read this book, I'm going to read this book, I'm going to do like a page of annotations, and I'm also going to write 2 paragraphs, you know, talking about, you know, the relevant points in the book. That's like a micro routine. You can do that mini routine at any time of the day or at any day of the week. I hope that makes sense. Micro routines are routines that you can do at any time of the day and that are transferable. If you don't end up doing it on a Monday evening, you can do it on the Wednesday afternoon. But don't set things in stone. What I found anyway, setting things in stone like every Wednesday I'm going to revise and every Saturday I'm going to do this, it never really happened. But by creating routines that I knew I can kind of slot into different days of the week, that's what I found to be very beneficial when it came to trying creating some sort of routine. The third and final thing that I found to be very difficult while being a student at nursing school was stress management. And wherever you go, wherever you work, you're going to find stress. You know, short-term stress can actually be a good thing because it pushes you to get things done. Stress becomes an issue when it becomes long-term and when you literally do not know how to manage it. You've got all this energy inside of you, you don't know where to put it. You've got all this extra baggage, you don't know where to put it, you don't know how to dispose of it, you don't know how to literally let it go. And looking back at my experience, I found year 3 and year 4 to be very, very stressful, even though it didn't really need to be. Like, looking back, year 3 and year 4, I think maybe wasn't as busy, definitely wasn't as busy as year 1 and 2. And that just goes to show that stress isn't just in relation to how busy you are. You can have like all the time in the world but still be very stressed, and it really does come down to your mindset and other things that you may be going through or other things that you may be experiencing. So it's very important early on to know how to manage your stress in terms of how to let it go if you do feel overwhelmed. And I do think as well, for me and maybe even for other people, it's also very important to kind of put things in place so that you don't ever get to a position where you're so stressed or where you're stressed for such a prolonged period of time. When I look back at year 1 and 2 of my degree and compare it to year 3 and 4 of my degree, year 3 and 4 being where I was more stressed, there are some things that I can identify. One thing that I can identify is that I wasn't working as many hours as my part-time job as I was when I was in year 1 and 2. And I know that I'm the sort of person where I like to have my hands in many different baskets. I'm not saying like I'm all over the place, but if I'm just doing one thing, as if like if I'm just on my nursing degree and I'm not doing any part-time job, not going to the gym, not doing any other hobbies, my mind will explode. And I think that's one thing that really contributed to my level of stress in year 3 and 4. So if you're like me, where you like to do more than one different type of thing, then make sure you try your best to maintain it. Another thing that I can notice when comparing year 1 and 2 to year 3 and 4, obviously in year 3 and 4, the stakes were higher because I did a 4-year undergraduate Masters of Nursing degree. Originally, I signed on to the 3-year bachelor's degree, but in second year, we had the option to do the extra year. However, if you failed 4th year, you could just go back to, you know, 3rd year and just finish with a bachelor's degree. If you failed 4th year, you failed everything. So obviously the stakes were higher. So that's one thing that I remember being different. The second thing that I want to mention is that you need people. Obviously, when I went into 4th year, my group of friends or the people that I was in contact with reduced drastically, because most of, you know, my friends had graduated. They had all gone home, or they had all gone and started living their graduate life while I was still at university. So you need people. Another thing that I found differently when comparing year 1 and 2, which was still stressful, to year 3 and 4, which was very, very stressful, was do the things you love. In year 1 and 2, I feel like I made more of an active effort to do the things that I liked, in terms of, like, you know, going to the gym, volunteering, just chilling, working part-time, which I really enjoyed. Whereas in year 3 and 4, I didn't place so much emphasis. I didn't make an active effort to really push and really prioritize doing the things that I loved. I can say that in year 3 and 4, I definitely placed more emphasis on my degree more than anything else. At that time, it was like my degree or anything else, and I'm sure that you guys can understand, because like the stakes were higher. If I failed now, it was literally game over. But like I said, you know, it's very important that you guys have some sort of stress management technique in terms of being able to manage stress when it comes. But it's also very important to not let yourself get there in the first place. And I feel like the tips that I've just shared in terms of doing what you love, making sure you surround yourself with people, making sure, if you're like me, you're putting your eggs in more than one basket. Those are kind of, for me anyway, those are techniques that kind of prevent me from getting too stressed and too overwhelmed in the first place. But if you do find yourself in that position where you are very stressed and where you are very, you know, really overwhelmed, 1, seek professional help, and 2, maybe like consider some sort of like meditation technique. Some people find positive affirmations very helpful. Some people find like doing yoga, stretching, all of that stuff very helpful. Key is seek expert help. Anyway, those are the 3 things that I found very difficult when I was in nursing school. The first one, you know, being the workload. The second one, which you could literally just say is the first one as well, is managing or maintaining some sort of routine. And the third one was stress management when I was in the latter years of my nursing degree. I hope that the tips that I've provided will be beneficial for you guys at some point in your future. If you guys would like to see more videos like this, then make sure you give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.